And we're live.
Okay.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Bonnie. Yeah, I just saw that report about Kobe Bryant, Bonnie. Came up on my iPad when I turned it on. You seem to lose a lot of sports people to air crashes. I mean, it's because they travel so frequently. Just more chances of
I
it.
think they travel on little tiny airlines too.
Yeah, well, could happen on any airline, I suppose. But anyway, so we'll just give it a couple of seconds here, see if we've got some more people here coming. And today you can see we're not having anything too exotic. I'm drinking white wine. Walter's drinking red wine. It was a helicopter, Bonnie said this time.
Oh.
Okay, so. And Bonnie says, but they travel more than the average person, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. So that increases the odds, I suppose, with all that. Well, that's too bad. I don't follow sports, but I have heard of Kobe Bryant. I mean, who hasn't? Um, but anyways, that's too bad. Okay, well, let's press on to things that maybe aren't so depressing, or maybe they are. Who knows? So, as I said, we're both having wine today. And yes, we are still on our intermittent fasting kind of diets, which actually is working. I mean, I've lost another pound this week or so. We'll see tomorrow. We go to the doctor's tomorrow, and she'll want to weigh me. Again, I always tell her, well, you're going to take off 25 pounds because I've got clothes on. She never laughs. I don't think our doctor has a sense of
Nah,
humor.
she doesn't have a sense of
I don't
humor.
know. She's a good doctor, but actually a little too good at times.
No, she's really serious. I don't know. She.
She's French Canadian.
Yeah, well, that might explain
Like,
it.
doesn't translate well. The French Canadian are not known for their sense of humor. Believe me. Try and crack a joke if you go to Quebec City sometime, and if it's not in French, they'll just look at you and poo poo. So much for that. But anyway, ways. So enough about them. So what's up this week? Okay. My mother got her eyes checked this week. They should have checked her brain. But I called her up. She answered the phone actually the other day. Well, it was yesterday when I called her. Lately, she's been taking to just not answering the phone. And so I said to her, how'd your eye exam go? And she goes, well, everything's fine. And I said, well, she says, they're going to call me again, though. They want to check again. And I said, what do you mean they want to check again? Well, they have an office right here in the building. And I said, no, they don't, Mom. They don't have an office in the nursing home. I said, they're mobile. They come in. I said, it may have looked like an office because they probably bring a lot of stuff with them and set it up in one room. I said, did they take you down to some place to have your eyes checked in the nursing home? She says, yes. And I said, well, that's what they've done. But they don't. Well, yeah, they do. And I said, okay, Mom, I don't think they do. But, well, I know they don't. But anyways, I wasn't going to argue with her. And then her eyes are fine, except that I had to piece this all together because lately my mother's not been really coherent. And I'm beginning to think Walter's right that she's got a form of dementia happening or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's like the kind that like my mom had and your dad had, where it was like
Hi, Kathy.
seeing people.
No,
And
I
stuff
think it's
like
what
that.
they call, I don't know if they call it situational or something. There was a sign in the hospital when she was in the hospital there a year and a half ago, and they talked about some form of dementia that people in the hospital for a long time can get, but it was more to do with, I think, lack of stimulation more than an actual mental problem. So,
Yeah, it seems like your mother has a problem understanding things. Like it's.
yeah, I don't know. I don't get it because with my mother, you never know if this is an act or this is something for real. Well, I asked them when we had the care conference about her having any form of dementia, and they didn't think she did. They
Well,
just,
they didn't really say. They said you said early onset dementia, and she said at 80 she doesn't ever
well,
onset.
early onset, whatever. But I don't know. They didn't seem to think that it was. They didn't think it was anything beyond the normal that people have when they're institutionalized.
Yeah.
Basically. So, oh, battery a little low.
Yeah.
So anyway, so hi Nairi, Australian Day public holiday. Okay, so you'll have to tell us about that, Nairi. What?
Australian Day. It's like Canada Day.
Oh, okay. You just don't think of it happening. Well, I guess it can happen whatever time it is for whatever year. I don't know. I always associate.
Why would ours be in July?
I don't know. I guess yeah, that's true. Whatever. I got my mother's disease. So, anyways, I guess she called them, she told me her cataracts were coming back. No, her cataracts aren't coming back. She had her cataracts done. So did I. I had mine done before my mother had hers done. And they told me I would have something that they sometimes refer to as secondary cataracts, which is something to do with the way your eyes build up enzymes or something that try to attack the artificial lenses that they have replaced your real lenses with in your eyes. And you get a little cloudiness, and they just take that off with a laser. It takes 5 minutes, and there's nothing to it whatsoever. And I had that done. So I told her that. I said, well, that's maybe why they want to call you again. They may want to set up an appointment to do this or something. So I said, well, just wait. And then she's been talking about getting new frames for her glasses, which is fine, except that I don't know how, we can't take her someplace to go look at frames. But she seemed to claim that these eye people that came in, they had frames with them. Whether they did or not, I don't know. So it's something I will have to find out. But she said, but then she's starting to talk about, well, I never wear my glasses. Well, that's what I was thinking. She never wears her glasses. I wear mine because I have them for close up. She has the same eyes as I do right now. But I need them to read. I need them to read my computer screen because it's close. I need it to read my iPad screen. I need to read it for a book. My mother doesn't read. She doesn't have a computer. She doesn't have an iPad. She doesn't need her glasses. She can see her TV fine, no problem. So kind of thinking, with the price of frames these days, and my mother is picky about what she'd want, they're quite pricey for something that's just going to be buried in a drawer somewhere. But I thought, well, if she wants new frames, then we'll look into getting new frames. Well, then 3/4 of the way through the conversation about this, she turns around and goes, well, maybe I don't really need them anyways because I never wear my glasses. That's what I was saying, Mother. But whatever. So we just leave it. We'll see. They're supposed to call me about the results from this because I have the power of attorney for one thing, and they know that. I signed a form for the eye examination that said anything that they needed to do or were going to do, they would consult with me first. So I haven't heard from them. So I guess things are fine. Maybe I'll hear on Monday.
It's not taking a charge.
Maybe that thing's not charged.
It's supposedly charged. It has all
Got in the right hole?
yeah. See, when I take it out, it's complaining.
Oh. Well, you must have been really low, because if you're really low, it will take a while. Nice planning ahead.
Yeah, well, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, hi, Andy. So, anyways, that was with my mother. So, Walter went to his first embroidery class yesterday. How was that?
Exciting not.
Why is that? Tell us.
Well, instructor basically just went over a lot of basic things for a long time. And then she went through and started demonstrating the machine, sorta. We all had pretty much the same machine. And I don't know, it was like 4 hours of nothing.
Yep, I told you that, didn't I? Nothing against the person who's teaching the class, but the person's teaching the class is not a teacher. And that's why I'm super critical. Okay, sorry, but that's what I did for my life. And she's not organized enough.
No,
and
because she does it off the top of her head. And she's done, well, okay, but the other thing that was the problem with this class, she hands out a handout, right?
Well, she actually had a handout.
She had a handout. And in their handout, there's like about 3 mistakes, big mistakes.
Well, is this anything unusual?
She cut and paste stuff and cut and paste it in the wrong spots.
Well, she said
and
she's not good.
And she didn't reread it because that's what she doesn't seem to do. She doesn't seem to reread anything. She just does stuff and then prints it out and doesn't look at it.
I know. She's a great person and she knows her stuff. But the problem is if you're going to teach a class, okay, I had to do this. No matter how many times I taught the same thing over a number of years, if I didn't read over my notes, if I didn't get my mindset prepped before the class happened, I would miss something, put something out of line, or whatever. It happens to everybody. But if you're going to teach a bunch of people, you always have to make an assumption as a teacher that the people you're teaching know less about the topic than you do, which is not really an unfair assumption because if you are the instructor, you should know more than they do. That's why they're taking the class, right? But,
well, there's another thing that was funny. When she was going through all the menus on the machine, showing up the menus, and there was one final option on there, and I can't remember what it was. But she looked at it, and I heard her say under her breath, "Oh, what was that one for?" and she didn't know, so she skipped over it, right?
oh,
And somebody said, "Wait a minute, what's this one for? You skipped over." She goes, "Well, I can't really remember. I'll have to look that up."
well, I mean, there's so many different machines that she deals with, and if you're not doing it on an everyday basis or frequently, it's easy enough to forget, I'm sure.
But she tried to skip over it rather than saying, "I can't remember."
And that's the other mistake you should never make as a teacher of anything. You never bullshit your way through something or try to skip over something because someone in the class will nail you. And that's what happened there. So did anybody have a frustrating time with their machines? Of course, you didn't get to do much.
Well, we didn't get to do much. She started off doing a demo embroidery session with one of the machines. And she just demoed how to start it off, and then she wanted us to all do it. Well, that was the end of the class because we were supposed to go to 4.
Oh.
And she says, "Well, you can all stitch out your own design pick a design and do it on this tea towel that we were supposed to do it on." And just sort of left everybody to their own devices. Well, half of us said, "Well, I'm not staying any longer than this." So basically, the project that we were supposed to do this week, nobody ended up doing because we didn't get to it.
Yeah, well, I see some things have not changed since I took that class. So there you are. But whatever. Kathy says you're so right about never try to fake your way. They will catch you. Yep, I know. Everybody learns. The first time you ever do that and someone calls you out, you don't do it again. Or at least you shouldn't if you've got half a brain. So anyway, so what projects are you working on in your little sewing room? You're in there madly embroidering.
Well, no, I just thought, well, what happened was somebody had a box of that bro thread or whatever. Embroidery thread. And cheap embroidery thread that you buy on Amazon. And those are the ones that you got me the variegated in, right?
Yeah.
Well, surely the instructor tried to use it to stitch out a pattern, which is like that pattern I was doing, the what do you call it, the monogram type thing.
Yeah.
And she used a combination of Floriani and that bro thread, right?
Yeah.
Well, Floriani stitched out okay, but the bro thread didn't.
Hmm.
And now this woman also had other problems with. She brought in a sample piece of embroidery that she did, and it didn't look right.
Well, is that the one you said didn't use any stabilizer?
Yeah, she didn't use any.
Well, that's why it didn't look right.
Well, she didn't have a lot of, but she said she used a combination of the bro thread and the Floriani as well, but neither one looked good on her piece. But that's probably because she didn't have any stabilizer.
She didn't have any stabilizers, just pulling thread up, nothing to hold it.
No.
I mean, just the fabric, and that's not enough when you do embroidery because the stitching is so intense. Oh well, I'm sure next week will be a thrill.
Yeah, so next week is supposed to be a towel. So we're.
Oh. So did she tell you what you needed on top?
No, we laughed, all laughed, and nobody, like it's on our instruction sheet, but what we're supposed to get.
Do you have any of that?
I have some.
'Cause I've got
I
some.
ordered some before, but I ordered some from the other company.
Oh, so you got it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just need tearaway and some topping.
Oh, some topping,
Yeah.
creamy topping, whipped topping,
Huh.
whatever. Okay, well, that's your life. Well, I'm doing some sewing classes starting on Tuesday. In fact, I'll be there all day Tuesday for about the next 4 weeks because I'm taking one class in the morning, one class in the afternoon. And the class I'm taking in the morning is to do with things called flying geese. And I've done flying geese before. And they told me they only had about 2 people sign up for the class, so they were thinking of canceling it. Well, later this past week, I did get a call from them and said, nope, the class is on. So I don't know if there's only going to be 2 of us in the class or if they got a few more people to sign up for it or whatever. Actually, I wouldn't mind it if the class is small because the classroom is small. And you've heard us talk about this before. And yeah, how was that for your
Well, there were
machines?
6 of us in the class, right? Which isn't as much as she has had in the past, but
No.
I think 1 or maybe 2 people did not show up.
Oh, well, that happens too. But even with six is about all she can
Well,
handle.
6 is we all had the smaller machines.
Yeah.
Nobody had any of the big machines.
But still, you need the space
yeah.
in there. I mean, even when you're taking a sewing class, if there's any cutting to be done, you can pretty much forget about it because you're on top of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, not really her fault because it's the nature of the building she's in. It's just not big enough. But on the other hand, sometimes she overstocks the classes with bodies, and it's frustrating, especially for people who are newbies to this kind of thing, because everything is awkward for you when you're first taking one of those classes, and if you don't have any experience, it makes it even worse. So, but anyways, such is life. But I've got these 2 classes, so I like the classes. I mean, here we are bitching about them, but I mean, not really. I mean, the classes are kind of fun. I always learn something from them, and they're social. You can sit in the basement all day
Somebody's
sewing.
asking what the classes are that you're taking.
Oh, I'm taking what's called Geese Galore, and it's basically flying geese. Flying geese are little triangles on rectangles and little points. And I guess the whole idea is they call them flying geese because they're supposed to symbolize geese flying. I guess. I don't know. And the other class is Quilt as You Go. And it's essentially doing a scrappy quilt. It's just a whole lot of strips. But you put the quilt together as you go. For the quilting on it is just straight line quilting. It comes as you stitch, but you're stitching through all your layers. Then you put the squares together. I've seen this done. I have never attempted it before. I don't think it's very difficult. That's why I'm taking the class, because it's something I've never really tried before, and I'm curious about how it works, but I have a feeling I already know how it works, because I watch YouTube. You can learn everything off of YouTube. And then later down the road, I'm taking 2 other classes. One is to make this thing called a mandala kind of a thing. It's a very artsy looking kind of, it's sort of round with points. And I suppose you could put it on a round table as a cloth, or you could add pieces to it and make it into like a quilt as well. I don't know about it. It uses some templates to cut the stuff out, and I've done some research on the templates, and they're like expensive. They're about $90.
That woman's other class is to make a tuffet, right?
Yeah.
I saw those tuffet kits in
Yeah.
the store, and they're $99 each.
Like, plus already paying $65 for the class.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a pattern to buy and these templates on top of it, plus your fabric. If you're taking classes aren't cheap.
Yeah, like my embroidery classes are, I don't know how many there are per class, 3 or 4 sessions, and they're $65 each for those sessions. Plus I have the materials and stuff like that on top.
Well, that seemed to be the average price. The only class that...
Those bag classes I took 2 bag classes too. And they're, I think one's like $75 and the other one's like $85.
Yeah, and then you got all...
And then you have to make bag. And bag materials, like those little bags that I made that I showed her, they're not cheap. You can easily put, they can easily cost you $60, $70, or $80 to make one.
Especially when you start buying how much hardware is on them. Because,
well, this one doesn't have any hardware on it, but the new ones that I'm making has a bunch of hardware on them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, they can put you in the poorhouse, but what more can you do?
I mean, I'm more making them so that I have some technique. Like took that Riviera pattern and made it a big bag out of it.
Yeah.
Actually, they were all impressed. Because,
Did you show that bag
I
last
don't
week?
know. Well,
Go get it. Go
I'll
show
get
your.
it, but
Walter's going to show his bag. Ooh. Okay, let's not get naughty. Bonnie, what are you saying here? I did the quilt as you go class, and it was a nice class because when you're finished with your top, you're finished the quilt. Yeah, I know that's the thing about it. But the only thing about it, though, is that your quilting is very simple. It's like stitch in the ditch, at least from what I know. So, and I've seen the sample quilt. And so what I'm thinking of doing is after I get the quilt together, doing the quilt as you go, I may do some more quilting over top of it. I'm getting a little bit more proficient at doing my quilting using the embroidery machine, and I kind of like doing that with it. So show your bag.
this is my big
There's
bag,
Walter's big bag.
right? And I've got a big flat bottom on it. And I bought some other maple leaf that Steve gave me this embroidery thread at Christmas time that was variegated. So that's my test patch. And then I decided to do another thing, and it's all lined with fabric and stuff like that. It also has an outside pocket.
Yeah. So he's getting just too efficient on the bags now. Laura says she loves it, and Kathy likes it. Yeah, Bonnie, you could do anything after it would look nice. And yeah, you're right. It is an expensive hobby. All hobbies are expensive. And yes, the instructor has to get paid. So, it's just that what they don't tell you when you sign up is how much extra it is going to cost you. And probably the reason they don't tell you is because if people found out that basically what they're going to spend to make a bag or to do a quilt and that is going to be possibly another couple of $100.
Yeah, there's the assumption that when you make something yourself, it's going to be cheaper than if you buy it in the store. And in actual fact, you can buy a decent bag in the store that'll cost you much less than making your own.
Some of those ladies are so friggin' cheap, though.
Well, yeah, like yesterday, there's a indicator on the embroidery machine that tells you that beeps when your bobbin gets low, right? And you don't want to run out of your bobbin when you're doing embroidery. So you can set it up to a tolerance level where it goes to a low amount that there's left on your bobbin.
Yeah.
But but there isn't that much left on your bobbin when it.
Well, the default on those machines is 25%.
Yeah.
And you can bypass that. If you hit the X when that comes up, you can probably still get a lot more out of it. And what I did was I went in and set mine to 5%.
Yeah, I got it at 5% right.
Yeah, but they default at 25.
Well, no, mine defaulted at 10.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, but that was still too much for them. Well, anyway, the one that was sitting next to me, she just pulls it out and doesn't bother taking the leftover thread off the bobbin and just winds over top of it.
Huh.
Right? And like the instructor says, what you can end up happening is when it gets back down to that spot again. Well, one, you're going to run out of bobbin thread, and the other thing is you may get a big knot.
Yeah. You can have a lot of problems with that.
Yeah, and like Shirley said, that if you get a big knot in your bobbin case, it can cost you a lot to get that fixed.
Yeah, okay, let's see. How do I know that? Because I've had that kind of thing happen to me. I didn't wind another color on my bobbin over top of it. I didn't do something as dumb as that. Because I'm sorry, but that's dumb. In fact, until you mentioned that person doing it, I have never heard anybody even...
Well, actually, there were two in the class that did it. Yeah.
Because if it pulls up your bobbin case, which mine has done, and you have a major jam, it scores. It puts burrs into your bobbin case. They're just plastic. And basically, after that, you're screwed. You can take a little file, like a fingernail file, and you can file off the burrs, and it may or may not work. But I actually have been stockpiling extra bobbins, bobbin cases, just in case. They're like $40 a pop. And plus, it could cause a lot of other major problems with your machine, too, that you just can't fix on your own. So, these machines are delicate. You got to treat them right.
they're pretty sturdy machines, but you still have to treat them nice.
Well, yeah, but I just can't believe. Well, it was like that woman who took the serger course with me and had the same serger as your old serger, your sister's old one, and we're learning how to thread them. And she didn't even realize that you could take the side panel off, but she managed to get it threaded. And we're all trying to still figure out how she managed to do that because that was an impossibility.
Bonnie asked if it was just Janome machines or an embroidery class in general. It's an embroidery class in general, but the store that we go to sells Janome machines. Most of the people, everybody in my class yesterday had a Janome machine, and it was either the version I have or the version before, right? And so people that go to that store tend to have Janome machines. However, there's no stipulation that says that you can't bring another brand of machine there. It's just the only problem you might have is the instructor may not know how it works.
Yeah, because she's an expert in Janome machines. In fact, she's one of their top salesperson or has the top sales in Janome machines for the company.
Like for instance, he took a class a few times. When he first got his machine, he took the embroidery
I took the same classes.
And he said there was a guy in his class that had a high-end brother machine, and all the instructor, he had some problems with it, and unfortunately the instructor did try to help with him, but because she wasn't familiar with the machine, she could only be of limited help. So, and
it was a bit frustrating, I think, for him as well. But she doesn't say though that you can't, if you don't have a Janome embroidery machine, you can still take the class. But
but I'm sure she probably tells them if you have a problem with it, or if you don't, you must know how your machine operates before you to go. So.
And then you said there was one woman who had the machine for 3 years, never taken it out of the box, and now it was being serviced?
Yeah, she was sitting across from me. She had a loaner machine from the shop. She said she had bought one 3 years ago. It sat in a box for 3 years because she's afraid to use it. So she finally took the embroidery course, but when she pulled it out of the box and had tried to test it out, or she brought it in to test it out, it wasn't working properly. So
how would she know if she's never used it?
No, I think she brought it in to Shirley, and Shirley checked it out, but it wasn't working properly. So they had it in to have it serviced. Either that or she bought a second-hand machine. I don't know.
It sounds a little suspicious to me.
We'll see when she gets her real machine back what kind of machine she has.
Yeah, but I don't understand that though. There was a woman in my serger class who had a serger, and she had it for a couple of years under her bed. She'd never taken it out of the box because she wasn't really sure what to do with a serger. Well, why do you have a serger, is what I asked. And she said, oh, my husband bought it for me.
Yeah, Bonnie says, why buy a machine when you're saying, well, I think what happens sometimes is that people get given a machine, like by their husband or something.
But like that's not always true either, because if I go to the crafting world,
no, that's true.
A friend of mine, she would buy stuff. Like at one point she owned two color printers, never took them out of the box. To this day, they have not been taken out of the box. That was probably 6 years ago that she
orders.
Yeah. And she just, and her excuse was, well, I haven't had time. I get something, I'm immediately got it. I'm at home, I'm ripping it out of the box and I'm going through it because I'm excited. I want to use it. I can't understand.
Well, and the lady that was sitting next to me, she had gotten her embroidery machine, I think in December or something like that. And she used it quite a bit. But then when we were going through the menus and stuff like that, she goes, oh, I haven't seen any of these menus before on there. And I said, didn't you go through your book to, play when you're playing around with it to try and figure out how to use it? Oh, no, I don't read books.
Okay, that's what men get. You should have said to her. I said what your answer to us should be. So what, are you really a man then? Because isn't it men get always criticized? We don't ask for directions and we don't read manuals. Well, she must have a masculine mentality then, is all I can say.
And
that's
Nairi
true.
says that happens a lot with electronic cutting machines too.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I've known of several people that have bought electronic cutting machines and they're still in the box because they're afraid they're going to break it. Then save your $400 and spend it on something else. in that case. Dana's here. I was scared of my embroidery machine for months. Then I invited a lady over to my house and she showed me a few things and I tackled my fears. But why, Dana? Why were you afraid? It's just a bloody machine. It's like people who were afraid of computers. I always used to say to people when I taught computer courses, if you hit the wrong key,
It won't blow up.
it won't blow up the world. Okay, it's not a nuclear device. Just play. That's how you learn. You can always undo something. But I don't get it. So,
And actually, well, see, I have a lot of knowledge because I was a computer programmer at one point.
great
But
knowledge.
to me, the interface is fairly intuitive. It's not too bad.
Well, actually, I would debate you on that one. It not to someone who's not.
I mean, there are quirks to it.
Well, it's not like using a computer.
No.
The interfaces on the Janome machines are kind of primitive and they're not intuitive. They're not bad, but they're not intuitive. So we can figure it out, but we've been playing with computers for years and years and years with it. But the average person who probably sits down in front of their computer, they type up a document, they check their email, they go to a website, and that's all they do. The interface on one of these computerized embroidery machines would probably throw them for a loop.
Yeah, I can see a lot of people having a problem with it, with the way it works.
Yeah, Dana says, why is an excellent question. Fear of the unknown. Well, Dana, obviously, though, you don't have any fear of it anymore. I can say that from what we've talked about on TQW. So, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. I've never been afraid of any machine I've ever come across, except if it's got four wheels and I have to drive it. I'm not touching a table saw because I don't need to. Simple as that. And Bonnie says, I just touch a button on my machine. It comes up with instructions, both reading and video. Well, what kind of machine do you have, Bonnie? Because
actually, there is an instruction button on the one that I've got. I don't think I've ever used it though.
I don't think there's one on mine.
Yeah, there should be one. There's a question mark.
Oh, I never use that. I have no questions. Actually, I think I did use it when I first got it.
She's
Tried
got
it.
your Husqvarna.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Husqvarnas. I'm not sure what they're like. I've never had my hands on a Husqvarna.
The problem with them here in this area anyway is that it's hard to get them serviced.
Yeah, and I mean everybody always talks about Berdina machines, but here trying to get a Berdina serviced.
I think Larry's just does long arms.
He just does long arms.
But
so,
I think he services machines.
Oh.
Too.
Well, I don't know. All I have ever owned is Bonnie says is Husqvarna. Yeah.
Well, everybody gets sort of like attached to their own brand, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't compared other brands. I walked into this store and bought a Janome because that's what they sold.
Well, my sister used to have Janomes all the time when she was alive. And so they've always had a good reputation. But a lot of people, they're like the people that own Berninas stick their nose in the air and say,
Yes, I know. I have a Berdina. Good for you. I don't know. It's whatever you get used to, I guess. I don't think you can go wrong probably with any of the major brands. So, Bonnie says she doesn't compare. Some people like Mercedes, some like Kias. Virginia says, hi, Virginia. I've been in classes a few years ago where husbands came along for the computer into the embroidery. Oh, yeah? And Kathy has an older Berdina, not an embroidery machine, and I no longer sew, so it just sits in a cabinet. Good for me. Yeah. Well, I'd be interested in checking out Berdinas, but I don't need another sewing machine. And
yeah, you're the store that you frequent sells one particular brand or something, then you tend to go with that brand.
Yeah, and that's what we did. Our local quilt store sold Janomes, so that's what we went with. So, and I haven't been disappointed.
And she has really good prices on them too. So,
I think a lot of things with sewing machines. I think the mentality in the way they're designed does not come necessarily from a computer mentality. So I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of mentality comes from, but they're not intuitive at all.
Well, I don't know about other brands, but with Shinomi brand, I know that the interfaces, this particular interface hasn't been redesigned in many years.
Yeah, well, they need to do an upgrade on that. But whatever. So did anybody sew through their hoop?
No, because we didn't get a chance to sew yet.
Oh, okay. So you have that to look forward to then
Yeah,
next
yeah,
week.
I know.
Okay.
That can happen because some of them in there are not too swift.
Well, that's why they're taking the class, I guess.
I
But
guess a lot of them didn't know that you had special embroidery thread that you can buy too.
that okay. I don't. Not that I'm trying to sound superior, but I knew there was such a thing as embroidery thread for embroidery machines before I ever owned a sewing machine. Like, and I didn't know anything about sewing.
So like the one next to me was using Gutermann to do her embroidery.
But Gutermann sewing
Gutermann
thread.
sewing thread.
I mean, you can use it.
Yeah, you can use it.
You can use it. It doesn't just use nice quality as a
It doesn't
dedicated
give you
thread.
a shiny. It doesn't have a glisten on it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it? I mean, Shirley says you can use Orfill too, which is
Yeah.
you can use anything you want, really.
Well, I'm using
But-
Orfill to quilt my quilts using the embroidery machine.
Yeah, well, you
But-
can use whatever you want, but embroidery thread is designed for embroidery, and usually has a sheen to it.
Yeah. Most brands have. Oh well, I'm sure you've got lots of things to look forward to in future classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, well, off of that topic. Okay, guess what I'm back on after how many months? Facebook. Remember, I probably told you that someone stole my identity on Facebook and locked me out, and I tried everything to get my account back and whatnot, and Facebook was absolutely no help with it or anything. And so I figured, why do I need it anyways? It's a waste of time. So I haven't been on Facebook, and I haven't really missed it. Well, that's not completely true. There's a couple of groups on there that I belong to that I kind of miss with it, and there's no other way to be part of those groups unless you have Facebook. Well, I don't know why, but the other day something came up and said to connect using Facebook for something. And I just thought, out of curiosity, I would just hit the button and try it. Well, when I hit the button, it didn't, it put me to create a new page, like to set up an account. So I thought, well, yeah, I've been to this route before when I was trying to fix it. I'll give it another shot. It worked. I mean, I changed my password this time, but I changed my password last time too. But I used my same name and the whole bit. So I'm back on Facebook. We'll see how long it lasts because I don't trust Facebook. Of course, I've set up now all the things for recovery, which last time I didn't have all those things set up, but I do this time, whether those really work or not, like 3 friends that you can contact or something.
Who did you other than me?
You, my sister, and I think I put Bev on it.
Oh,
Because at the time I didn't have to, I didn't know what else to put on it.
Bev isn't Bev the sewer?
No, Bev as in out in Bromanville. Bev and Stefan.
Oh, Bev. Oh, him. Yeah.
Because his name just happened to be there,
Oh.
so I figured, okay, fine. And he uses Facebook all the time, so I figured he'd know what's going on. I thought of using your nephew,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if that was dependable. And
Who knows?
I don't know. So I just went that route. So, anyways, I'm back on. Hi, Cindy. It's going fine, Cindy. So, anyways, I'm back on Facebook for what it's worth. And yesterday, I finished my first quilt that I am giving away. You may have remembered back tail end of last summer, a friend of mine, we were on their sailboat. You know, I talked about falling down and wrecking my knee and all that kind of stuff. And we'd gone to the nude beach and all those kind of things there. Well, he'd asked me at the time, he says he'd like to commission me to make him a quilt, a throw, for his couch in his living room. And he would pay me and pay for the material and everything like that. And I said, no, you won't. I says, I'll make you one. I said, you don't have to pay for anything. I said, I'll give it to you as a gift. I said, you're a friend. So I had a pattern here at home that I'd had for over a year. Actually, it was a kit. It had Tim Holtz fabrics in it. And this friend of mine is very much into vintage things like antiques and especially Victorian antiques and things like that. And I figured this fabric line would be perfect for him because it has that antique-y, browny colors, distressed look to it that it would go with, like his style. And so I put the kit together, and it's been sitting. I started to quilt it, and at the time that I started quilting it a couple of months ago, I was just using walking foot quilting, basically wavy lines on sections of it. And then I put it aside and was working on other things. So I thought, well, I better get this out and get it done because it'll be like a year before he gets it. And now that I'm doing the embroidery quilting, I thought, well, I'll finish what I started on his quilt because I had done the whole quilt, just a couple of panels on it. And then in the center panel of this quilt, I would put in using the embroidery. So I was, of course, I'm the kind of person that likes to experiment on finished products. I never just make a sample and try it out in that. I just go for the whole thing and try it out. Well, I did do a couple of trial runs on a couple of sample things. So I found a pattern I liked, figured out the way I was going to do it, started doing it. And then things went not horribly wrong, but not the way I wanted it to go. And so I thought, no, I'm going to finish this, but I have a feeling I'm not going to give it to him because I don't know how this is going to turn out. So I'll just chalk this one up to experience and I'll make a different one for him. Well, no, it turned out. It took a little fudging, but turned out okay. What do you think?
Yeah, it was good.
This reminds me of something that was that old that show that used to come on, Shotgun Red. Wow. And he'd go, and Sheila, how are you today, Sheila? I'm fine. I always saw the thing. She'll use like 3-word sentences. But anyway, so it turned out okay. But I'm not going downstairs to get it and show it to you right now. I'll be featuring it on my vlog tomorrow. If you're interested in seeing it, it will be there. And I might post it on Facebook as well. Yay. Since I've got Facebook account now again. Hi, Ilona. So anyways, that is done. So that takes us to what's newsworthy. Disease. Everybody's got this disease. Well, not everybody's got it. But I guess what do they call it? The
coronavirus.
The coronavirus. Sounds like a beer. I don't know. Suck on a lime, you'll get over it. So right now they're saying here in Canada, I think they've had one case. There was something, or a suspect case, but they say that there's nothing to worry about at this point in time. But I guess China's in a bad state because I think there's 5 cities that have been shut down and they've quarantined the whole cities, and their cities are huge over there. They're not like a population of 1,000. It's like 50,000, 100,000, a million.
Well, no, 25. Their biggest city is 25 million.
Yeah, well, okay, the population of Canada, damn near. But no, I thought one of their cities was like, when we were there, 33 million or something. And I said, that's the same size as Canada, entire population. Wasn't that Chongqing?
Yeah, no, Chongqing. That was, that's 33 million. That's that big.
Yeah. So anyways, I guess now the cruise lines have decided that we're going to China. They're now, last week, they weren't giving anybody back their money, or earlier in the week, they said too bad. But now they're saying, okay, well, if you want to cancel, you can cancel, or if you want to postpone your cruise until 6 months in the future, you'll get the same rate and maybe some perks or whatever for it. So I guess they pretty much figure they got to keep this all pretty much contained.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kathy says, hey, that's the way to go. Get more viewers. Use Facebook. Yeah, I tried that. Never worked. It might be just me. I don't know.
You might be able to get on a couple of quilting groups.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm trying to get on that male quilters group that I was on before I lost my Facebook and that you're still on. I don't know if he's cleared me yet for it or not.
Well, he cleared you once before. He probably was sitting there having deja vu or something like that. So we got 2 Steve Blands on here.
Well, no, I told him that he'd been on it before. I explained to him what had happened. But anyways. So yeah, so I guess tis the disease thing's a bit scary, but they say it comes from snakes, and the snakes have come into contact with bats, and bats are the ones that have carried it. People are eating snakes over there.
Yeah, well, they eat everything over there.
Well, I guess it's a delicacy or something. I don't know. Yeah, great. Eat a snake, die. All right, I don't get it. I wouldn't eat a snake. So, what are we watching on TV? Okay, so I don't know if you've heard of this show before on Netflix. It's called Sex Education. We just finished watching the second season. It's hilarious. It's all about this young guy. It's about high school kids, basically. And,
It has Gillian Anderson in it, if you know her. She's
from the X
from
Files.
the X-Files. And at first, when I first saw the show, I recognized that she was familiar, but I didn't put two and two together until I looked her up.
Because she looks very different.
Because she looks very different.
Plus, she has a British accent.
Yeah.
Is she actually British?
No, she's United States.
She's American?
American.
Oh, okay, so she does a good job on
but
the
she
accent.
does a good job with the accent, and she plays a sex therapist.
Yeah.
And her son goes to school, and he teams up with this other girl, and they
Give
sex advice to teenagers,
and they charge them for it. And then there's a whole lot of other things happening in the story as well, but it's actually quite good. I think the second season was probably better than the first season.
Well, I thought both seasons were pretty
Well, they're both good, but I thought there was more happening in the second season. Well, of course, the characters were being more well developed and things like that. So, anyways, it's worth watching. And we watched a couple of movies last night. We watched a bio flick about Betty White on Netflix. I found that kind of interesting. You slept through it.
I slept through the last part of it.
Yeah, it was interesting because she's quite the person, really, and it's I thought it was really good. I like Betty White. Elon says, I really like the channel you recommended, The Last Homely House. Yeah, on YouTube. I really like her. She's a jack of all crafts. I can tell you that. She quilts, she does pottery, she makes journals, she does all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I find her really quite interesting. I find her both entertaining and educational, and her cats are really nice, especially Norma. Norma's always in the shots with her. And we also watched a stupid horror movie, Jigsaw. Have you ever seen those Saw movies? Well, it's one of those kind of a thing. It was kind of gross. Not as bad as some of them, but still. I mean, if you've got nothing better to do and you like a little bit of a terror movie, then you might want to sit down and watch Jigsaw. That's about all we've been watching. We finished everything else. So that takes us to this week's topic. Now, on my vlog on Monday, I put out a call for topic ideas because, quite frankly, we're running out of stuff to talk about on here. And somebody did come back. I forget who it was that sent me the email now. And suggested, one of the topics they suggested, which I thought was kind of interesting, they wanted to know what our take was, as Canadians, on the monarchy, on royalty. And you know that lately it's been in the news that Harry and Meghan are going to come and live part-time in Canada, going to switch it between Canada and Britain. And there was all kinds of speculation that the Queen might not be too happy about this, but apparently the Queen has said, yeah, whatever, go for it, kind of a deal. Well, that's kind of interesting. However, the problem I have with it, and I think 73% of Canadians that were polled have a problem with, is who's footing the bill for their security when they're over here, when they're living here. And they want to be commoners, sort of. They've dismissed themselves from their royal duties. They're dropping their HRH title. And so they're just going to live amongst us plebes.
Well, just like a movie star.
Yeah, really. Well, here's the difference, though. They have branded their royal title. They're the Sussexes, and they have branded it. And it is estimated that per year they make over $450 million on that branding alone. Plus, they get something like $4.1 or $4.2 million pay from the Queen, from wherever her money comes from, and all this kind of stuff. So I'll believe they want to be commoners when I walk into a no-frills grocery store and see Megan holding a can of no-name dressing and Kraft in either hand and weighing the difference and looking at the unit price. How many cents per ounce does this really cost in comparison to the other one? Then I'll believe they want to be commoners. Yeah, I don't think so. So that brings up the whole point about how we feel about the monarchy in Canada. Yes, we have a queen. The queen is head of our country. Actually, over top of our prime minister. The prime minister of Canada actually is the queen's prime minister for the Dominion of Canada. Now, there's a couple of things wrong in what I just said. That's the way it was when we were a Dominion. We are no longer a Dominion. We broke away from the British Empire. We are our own identity. We are a self-contained country. But because of tradition, we hold on to our allegiance to the Queen. So, if you become a Canadian citizen, you have to pledge allegiance, I think, still.
I'm not sure if you still have to do that.
Maybe they took that part out. I don't know. Used to, not so long ago. You had to pledge allegiance to the country and to the Queen. And I think it's still in there. I think
it may still be in there. I know that when I worked for the Ministry of Finance, I had to pledge allegiance to the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
But they took that away after a while because there were too many people that came from countries that didn't want to do that. So,
well, the thing is, I've always followed the royal family. I always thought they were really cool, especially when I was younger. And we just got rid of a whole pile of my books about the royal.
Still have them.
Well, they're in the garage, but they're going to Goodwill or to Value Village. But I collected books about the royalty, all kinds of them, picture books, kind of a thing. They're just blowing dust off, and Walter's decided he needs a shelf space in his office where they were kept for his fabric now that he's a bag queen, or whatever. And so anyways, that's fine. But we still have, when a law is made in Canada, at the federal level, it doesn't become a law until it's signed by the Queen. Now, does the Queen fly over and sign it? No. Do we fly over there with somebody, an envoy or something, and get her to sign it? No. We have something called a Governor General. Governor General is the Queen's representative, and so all he does is rubber stamp whatever happens.
She.
Yeah, she. Our Governor General is a she right now. And our Governor Generals are appointed by the federal government. And then we have what's called Lieutenant Governor Generals. Yes, I said lieutenant, not lieutenant. Lieutenant is American. Lieutenant is British. We do speak the Queen's English in Canada. So that is the lieutenant. And there's one for each province, and they're appointed by the provincial governments, and they also represent the Queen. So any bill that gets passed as a law has to be signed by the Governor General, or in the case of province, if it's a provincial law, has to be signed by a Lieutenant Governor General. And that's all the power the Queen has. And that's not any power at all, because a Governor General or a Lieutenant Governor General would never refuse to sign something that's been passed by the House of Commons or by the legislature in the provincial states. So really, it's just tradition. It's our last connection to Britain, who basically, between Britain and France, they settled our country. So that's what it is for us as Canadians. Now, a lot of people, especially out west, they hate the monarchy. And every now and then it comes up to a head that we should make a complete severance from the monarchy. And I would agree with that. We don't need them. Why are we bothering with this? I don't know. But we don't need them. Bonnie says, don't know if you watch The Crown, but half of it is true. Then we should get rid of our connection. A bunch of old fogies that are just. Yeah, I watched The Crown, and I'm not sure how reliable it is. I think they've taken the truth and then they've extended it, of course, as they often do in those shows. And yeah, it doesn't show the royal family in a very favorable light in certain circumstances. But I mean, it's a lot of inbreeding when you think about it. I mean, all of the royal families in Europe at one point in time were connected. In fact, a lot of them were connected in the Victorian age from Victoria herself. She married off a lot of her children, and she had, I think, 9 children. She married a lot of them off to royal relations. That's why there was problems with, what do you call the blood thing? Hemophilia, because of inbreeding. Because they were marrying first cousins in some cases. In fact, Queen Elizabeth's husband is a cousin to her. Not a first, but Prince Philip is related to Queen Elizabeth before they ever got married as well. So, you know, the whole idea of the intermarrying between royals is ancient. It was to keep the royal bloodline pure, I guess. Nairi says, well, I thought Canada was now a republic and didn't have Queen as head of state. Australia's Queen as head of state. No, we're not a republic at all. I don't know what you would call us.
We're just a country.
We're just a country. We're a socialistic country. But that's a term you won't hear very often about us because a lot of people think socialism and communism are the same thing, and they're not. But we're not a republic. I don't know what we would call ourselves.
Bonnie says we're the same as Australia.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're the same kind of system as the Australians with it. And the Queen is, I'm not sure if we'd actually call her head of state. Maybe. But I'm sure in Australia, and Nairi, you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I'm sure it's the same for you. The Queen is just a figurehead. She really has absolutely no power in your country. She has absolutely no power in our country.
Bonnie says she's negative about the monarchy. Yeah, I guess I always am too. So.
Yeah. I'm negative about the monarchy if the monarchy is going to have some kind of negative effect on my country or on me. And for example, I go back to the whole idea, if there's going to be a security detail for Meghan and Harry, they better pay for it themselves. I don't want to pay for it from my tax dollars.
It's one thing if you've got politicians or the monarchy visiting for a couple of weeks. Maybe at that point in time you can...
But that's different.
That's different.
Because we have that for any dignitaries that come.
Any dignitaries has security detail. But if somebody comes here to live, I don't think we should be paying for it. It doesn't matter whether it's the monarchy or if it's some other dignitary.
Yeah. I really think we should cut our ties with the monarchy right off. And if we did that, I suppose there'd be no need to have a governor general or lieutenant governor general. So we'd probably save a lot of money because those guys get paid a fair penny, I would think. Mm-hmm. So why should we have them? Yeah, they should pay for themselves. Now, to be fair to Harry and Meghan, I have not heard any reports where they're saying that they expect the Canadian people to fund their security detail. They've said nothing about that I know of. I haven't read anything about that. No. So, I mean, we may be jumping to a conclusion here.
And if they have a huge pile of income that you said that they may be making, they can get their own security detail.
Well, yeah. But, the whole point comes down to, though, why do the two of them want to come and live in Canada? And there's been lots of speculation about this. But first of all, Meghan is an American, and she has her own production company, and I think she's basing it out of Toronto. She wants to get back into showbiz again. Well, why not? I mean, suddenly it's her fault, but I mean, suddenly she's been uprooted from what she knows, walks into the royal family, marries a prince, and is expected to only do charitable work and to represent the crown.
Yeah, but she knew that when she was getting married to him.
Yeah, but she wanted Harry.
Yeah, wow.
And just like anybody in a marriage, once you get and when I say anybody, I mean women, once they get their claws into a man, they'll tell them they'll do anything until the wedding cake is cut. And then, we're going to change things. Harry has always had infamous reputation for being a bit of a bad boy as well, especially when he was younger. I mean, he's cleaned up the act over the years. But, remember way back when he was in Las Vegas or something, and there was those nudie pictures of him running around and, wrecking hotel rooms and doing whatever? Well, he's kind of like his uncle, Randy Andy, who's always been a bit of a handful for the Queen, too. So maybe, just like any young couple, maybe they just want to get out from underneath Mummy and Daddy. Let's move out and strike out on our own. They say they want to earn their own living. Well, okay, bully for them. Got nothing against that if that's what they want to do. Just as long as it doesn't cost us Canadians anything with it. The other thing, too, is, and this has been speculated by some of the tabloids in Britain, I've seen them online, because Meghan is technically, she's black. So it's a biracial marriage. And they say that the Queen, the royal family, may have a little bit of a problem with that. But it is the 21st century. So get over it, Queenie. So I don't know. So maybe, again, they come and live over here. They're a little bit away from underneath Mummy's thumb. I don't know. Who knows? What are people saying here? Bonnie says the Queen is our head of state and PM is head of cabinet. Yeah. Nairi says yes, to tell us the power. I think H&M should pay for all of it. And Bonnie says Queen Elizabeth is technically the sovereign of the parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy of Canada. Yeah, but it's just a title. Oh. The title doesn't hold any power whatsoever. The Queen wouldn't even think, no matter what the Canadian government passed, the Queen herself would not descend from her throne and say, not going to do that, love. She doesn't even do that with her own government in Britain. Because that's a constitutional monarchy. She doesn't have that much power in Britain either. No. It's more, her power comes, I think, mainly from tradition over there. But even less so of an effect on us. So, it says, doesn't her mother live in Canada?
No, I just checked that she lives in California.
Oh, she lives in California. Walter says he just checked that. Yeah, Kathy says, I think her mother is a yoga instructor in California. Yeah, everybody's agreeing with you. Yeah, so I don't know. But back to our relationship with the Queen and the royal family. We have a love-hate relationship in Canada with them. We love to hate them. Or we hate it to love them. Like, you have people over here that are monarchists. And they have meetings. And, it's all about the royalty. There is a magazine called Hello Canada, which is actually, there's a bunch of these magazines that start with hello. And
they actually were originated in England.
Yeah, that's why I figured. And you pick up any one of those editions and there's going to be a whole thing about the royalty on there. And it's on there because there are people who buy that magazine simply for that. And there's other monarchist magazines out there that people just gobble up. I mean, and if the Queen or any of the royal family come to Canada, yeah, there's always a lot of people out to see them. Well, it's a bit of a rarity, isn't it, in the 21st century? There's not many royal families left in the world. And Elizabeth, is probably the best representation of all royal families. She's probably the royal family. I mean, what? Denmark has a royal family. Holland has a royal family. Does Holland have a royal family still?
Yeah, as far as I know, they still do.
The Sweden?
I don't know.
I don't know. I know Denmark does.
And then...
and
Monaco has still, don't they?
Monaco?
Monaco, yeah.
Do they? Oh, yeah, probably do. And that kind of thing. And so, I think maybe what Harry and Meghan might be doing, or not maybe doing this on a conscious level, but I think what it shows to us, and if you throw Kate and William into the process of all of this, or into all of this mix, the monarchy is changing. And I think Queen Elizabeth knows that. And I think that's why she's sitting on that throne and she's not giving it up until the day she dies, just like Victoria did. Because she knows Charles is already an old man. He's in his 70s. And by the time he comes to the throne, his number of reigning days are probably numbered. And that would clear a path for William. And William and Harry are part of the 21st century form of monarchy. And I would almost think that in another 100 years, the British monarchy will probably not exist anymore. It'll just die out. As it probably should.
Or Gustav in Sweden.
Oh, okay. So Sweden does have a royal family as well. Okay.
Well, I think you seem to hear much more about British monarchy than you hear about any other monarchy in the world.
Well, yeah. Well, that's because they're the most infamous of it, or famous, whatever, which way ever you go. But as far as we're concerned in Canada, it's just a figurehead. I mean, they don't even have the picture of the Queen in schools anymore.
They did when we were kids.
When we were kids, we used to sing. When I was in elementary school, we would say, "God Save the Queen" and "O Canada." And you had a picture of her in every classroom, looking down at you in her regal way. "Hello, my people." And yeah, but we don't do that. You don't find pictures of the Queen in schools anymore. If there's a picture of the Queen in the school, that's not because the school board said you had to have one. It's just because maybe it's an old school and it's been there for years and, part of the decor. I don't know. Nairi says, do you think Elizabeth is thinking I'm done? Take me now. She's been such a great monarch. People love her. Her mother lived to be what, 103? I wouldn't doubt that Elizabeth's going to be with us for a few more years. But then again, when you've got that much money and the kind of lifestyle, she has the best doctors, the royal doctors. She has the best cooks. She has everything, So, I mean, if the Queen gets a sniffle, there's someone standing there with a Kleenex to wipe her nose. I don't know if that is in her other area of her body as well. Maybe. Royal tissue. Please, give me 2 squares. Whatever. And Jules says, hi, Jules. What is the purpose of the monarchy? Good question. Now, we've already kind of touched upon that as far as our country's concerned. The monarchy serves absolutely no purpose in our country. Now, in England, though, they do a lot of charitable work. They have a lot of charitable foundations that they're sort of the heads of and things like that, which help those charities out. Look at Lady Di. She did a lot of stuff for AIDS victims, for the awareness of HIV, and also landmines as well. She did a lot of good in her time. And I think the monarchy does do a lot of good. But a lot of people do a lot of good. So do we need them? I don't think we need them. But how do you get rid of them? That's a good question. How do you get rid of them?
Well, as long as they're still popular to some degree.
Well, Elizabeth has always been fairly popular, I think.
Who else are you going to talk about?
Well, true. Yeah. Ilona says, Andrew isn't so busy anymore. No, that's true. Well, of course, scandal. That's what I said, Randy Andy, And Harry takes after him a little bit. Andrew sure didn't, if what is indicated in the news is true. Yeah, that's the other thing. Who knows? But there's always been scandal in the royal families throughout the ages. But of course there's going to be scandal. Look at them. I mean, they don't know what it is to live an ordinary life because they weren't born into an ordinary life. Elizabeth had she wasn't prepared to take the throne when she did because no one expected that her uncle was going to abdicate when he did. And so her father, he was the spare. And he wasn't trained in the same way to take over. And then suddenly, out of the blue, he becomes king. And then Elizabeth now is in line for the throne. So she had to be taught everything that was necessary for the decorum, what to do, and the whole bit. And I think she carries it off pretty good. I think she's a really intelligent lady. I think she's been a very kind person, but she's also still caught up with the traditions that she was taught to behave with. And then suddenly she has children that are rebelling. Look at the scandal in the royal family. I mean, there's always been scandal, but it's always been hushed up. But they couldn't hush up that. Look at the whole thing with Lady Di and Prince Charles and Camilla. Charles should have married Camilla. He should have been allowed to marry Camilla back when he was younger, because that's the woman he wanted. But she was divorced. Well, actually, the time when he was dating her, she was going out with, or seeing her, she was dating another guy, and she married him. But she probably figured she had no chance of ever marrying him because she wasn't royalty. And so he didn't get her. And they found him a nice little virgin because that was tradition. You had to marry a virgin. So he picks up some little girl, little Di. They didn't expect Di to be the woman that she became, though, which was good for her. But unfortunately, she died too young. And then she protected her children, but she also put them out there. She took them to places where the public would see them, and so they could romp amongst, when they were kids, do things that kids do. You know, she took them skiing. She took them to amusement parks. She took them to the zoo. All those kind of things. Elizabeth tried to keep her family out of the limelight too when her father was king, but that couldn't last, could it? Because she became queen when he died so suddenly. What is everybody saying here? No, I'm backing up here. Bonnie says, no excuses for them, in my opinion, because they have status and money doesn't give them any more advantages. Yeah, true. Did you guys see Andrew's interview? He was not telling the truth. Oh, yeah. And you could tell that he wasn't telling the truth. I saw pieces of it. I didn't see the whole interview. But, yeah. But what's he going to say? Yeah, I was out playing around with those hookers that what's-his-face had. He probably was. But Kathy says, I think Elizabeth is tired. I imagine she probably is. Chris says, we in Australia have always had a backwards and forwards conversation on becoming an independent nation, a republic nation. It seems to be so much hassle. But, Chris, we're an independent nation, and we have a queen. And I just assumed that would be the same for Australia. But maybe it's not. Maybe the Queen has more of a hold on Australia than she does in Canada. I don't know. You can maybe you can enlighten me on that. Kathy says she raised her children herself. Well, that's not true, Kathy. Elizabeth did not raise her children herself. She started to do that when she married Philip, and when Charles and Anne came along. She was not yet on the throne. She didn't expect to be on the throne for many, many years, because when her father died, he was not an old man by the standards of royalty. And he died so suddenly, and suddenly she was thrust into the job. And once she became queen, the children had royal nannies. She tried to do more with them.
Unless she says she raised children herself, she referring to Elizabeth or Diana?
Oh, I don't know. I was assuming you meant Elizabeth. You mean Diana? That was different. Because Diana did raise her children on her own, which caused her a lot of problems because the royal family weren't too happy about that. But that was one thing about Diana that made it great. And that's why somebody like William, I think, would make a really good king because of that. But who knows? Will we ever see him become king? Maybe, maybe not. Nairi says, Australia's conversations regarding becoming a republic might intensify when Elizabeth's no longer with us. Probably. And Andy says, I felt sorry for Diana. She married someone who did not love her, and she was too naive and inexperienced to realize it. Yeah. You know, he was told he had to marry her, basically. He wanted Camilla. I'm glad that Charles finally got Camilla. You know, good for him. Good for both of them, because that's the way it should have probably have been. I mean, everybody loved Di. I mean,
she was talking about Diana.
Oh, she was talking about, okay. Oh, yeah, Diana raised her kids herself. And that's why I just said a moment ago. That's why William, I think, would make a really great king because he knows, like, he's more out there with the people, kind of a thing. And I mean, and Kate's wonderful, too. You know, she's just as involved with her children as he is, and the whole bit. So yeah, what's not to like about them? Um, yeah. So Chris says the Queen is our head of state, but really she stays out of the way and lets us run things. Yeah. Well, that's how it works here in Canada too. Um, but anyways, maybe it's just tradition that we hang on to it. I mean, and this is something I don't think Americans understand about Canada, because Americans broke away from Britain, and their breakaway from Britain was very violent, and they set up their own country and did all their things, like that. Whereas for us, we just quietly became a country over time, and we were all still part. We are still part of the Commonwealth. I mean, back when we went to school, if you looked at a map of the world and they paint in the red for the pinky color for the empire, the United Kingdom Empire, we were all in this ready pink color too, because we were the Dominion of Canada. We used to call Canada Day Dominion Day. It's not been that many years since we started to call it just Canada Day.
Yeah.
So
and we used to I was in elementary school when we got the Canadian flag.
Yeah, it was 1964 or 65 when we got our own flag, because for that it was the red ensign, which basically was a version of the Union Jack, the British flag. So yeah, maybe that's when we stopped being a Dominion.
Yeah.
We got rid of the name. You look at old maps and you'll see Dominion of Canada written across our upper half of the North America. Bonnie says, I think Harry and Meghan want to be left alone after what I read in the news rags from England and what they say about Meghan, who wouldn't leave. Well, I know that Harry has lashed out at the paparazzi and the press, because telling them, basically, you killed my mother, you're not going to get us too. Leave us alone. And he's probably right about that. Nairi says, expensive to change, but won't make any difference to how we run Australia now. Yeah. But, I think in the case of our country, let's just get rid of her. The hell with tradition. I mean, what does tradition have to do with anything anyways, really? William seems to have much more personality than Charles. Yeah, but you see, William has been raised, even though he had his mother there, Lady Di, and the whole bit, and it was a different kind of upbringing than what Charles had with his mother. William was still being prepared to be a monarch someday, whereas Harry was the spare, the heir and the spare. So the second one comes along, they give them a little bit more free reign, and they probably in Harry's own mind right now, what's he got to lose? He's never going to come to the throne. He is so far down in line now that, it's William, and then William, it's George, and George has got two spares in there as well. So there's no way William's ever going to, or Harry's ever going to become king, and he knows that. So, if he can move himself out of the limelight a little bit too, probably out of that pressure.
Sixth in line, is according to.
Is he sixth in line?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's got no chance. Charles and his boys have worked so hard with charities and given back. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't think the monarchy has done a lot not the present monarchy, has done probably a lot of good in the world. I don't think they've done anything really negative since Elizabeth's been in power. Well, mainly because she doesn't have the power to do anything. So I think it's leaving the Commonwealth is more about the possibility of losing the supporting connections with other nations when it comes to political unrest or in times of war, etc. I suppose. I mean, the one thing I do like about us being part of the Commonwealth is it's one thing that separates us from the rest of North America. When I say the rest of North America, I mean from the Americans. It just gives us that. People already around the world, sometimes who don't know Canadians, think we are the same as Americans. And I have said time and time again on here that we are not. And I think our connection to the monarchy and to the connection to the Commonwealth just gives us that little bit of an edge that keeps us being somewhat unique from the rest of the continent. I don't know. Maybe not. There was a 3-part series on TV about Charles' work in Wales, and now William is learning the ropes as he will become Prince of Wales. Yeah, I didn't see that series on there. I know that in, what was it? I was watching something called The Windsors or something. When Charles became Prince of Wales, there was a lot of controversy about that. The Welsh were not happy about this because essentially, if I understand it correctly, the Prince of Wales means he's the sovereign of Wales. And although Wales is part of the United Kingdom, the Welsh people still they're kind of like Ireland. They want to keep a certain distance from, they want to be their own thing. And, but I think Prince Charles, he's done a lot of things purposely in Wales to overcome that negative, connotation that the Welsh may have to the monarchy. There are a lot of people in the world that give to the world that don't get recognized at all. The only reason we know about the royal family is it's their jobs. That's true. And Chris says, I'm a little biased to royal due to my blood ties with them. Oh, Chris, you have royalty in your blood, my dear. Should we be curtsying and bowing to you? Do you have a title? Her Royal Majesty Chris. Or maybe it's Christine. Maybe that would sound more regal. I don't know with it. I'm just joking.
Title.
I'm a little bit. What's that?
No title.
No title. Oh. One of the fallen royals, right? Well, there are people who think of us as royalty. We're just a couple of queens, apparently.
Good for yourself.
Yeah, bite me. Well, if I'm the queen, you're the queen's consort.
Did I ever live in Holland? Yes, for about 6 months when I was 3. My mother, no, actually, I was born in Canada, and I did actually technically live in Holland for about 6 months. But that was when I was 3, when my mother decided she was going to move back to Holland permanently. So she went back, took the kids with her. We lived there for 6 months, and she decided no, she could not live there any longer. Had gotten too used to living in Canada, so she moved back again.
New comment.
I don't remember that period of time. I only have vague memories of a couple of incidents when I was 3.
Yeah, Bonnie says, to be honest, a lot of us come from the UK, or we have British roots. And I think that's what keeps the tradition for us in Canada. But that's changing in Canada.
Well, it's been changing for a long
Our
time.
demographic
my
now.
roots is Dutch, so.
Yeah, but look at, with the increase in Middle Eastern immigration and the whole bit, like.
And my pure Dutch background is in question too, because my mother always looked like she was Spanish.
Oh,
So,
Spaniard
and
in the
there was a
woodshed.
Spanish, what do you call it? Not settlement, but invasion in Holland at one year.
Oh, so some guy came to her door
there
and
was
went,
a Spanish guy in the woodshed.
hello, señorita,
Yeah.
would you like an
So
olive?
my mother was always mistaken for either a little Italian lady or a little Spanish lady, because she was short, heavy set, and dark hair. And true Dutch people were traditionally blonde hair.
Or had hair.
Blonde hair.
Let's see. Oh, Chris says she's a direct descendant from Robert the Bruce, a Scottish king. I know who Robert the Bruce is. Scottish king, although he was killed by a cruel English king who was later killed by his nobleman, and then his great-grandson took the English throne. We are not worthy to be in your presence. And Nairi says, my hubby was born in the UK, came here when he was 6. Always says he's an Aussie, has a piece of paper that proves it, citizenship certificate. And then Bonnie says, my father was stationed in Holland during World War II, and he said the people were the greatest. Live with them. I'll say no more.
Well, actually, my parents lived through the war, and she said that my parents always said that they really loved the Canadians. They came
Well,
up.
what's not to love?
So-
Really? We're nice people.
They said they had better aim than the American.
Have better what?
Aim than the American.
Oh. Okay, good to know. Yeah. Yeah, so whatever. Well, anyways, that's the monarchy. I guess time will tell whether it lasts or doesn't last and whatnot. And yeah, as long as it's not costing me any money, I don't care. But as soon as our government turns around and says, oh yeah, okay, it's now going to cost the taxpayer umpteen millions of dollars to surround Meghan and Harry with security guys, then I think it's time for a protest in this country and go home. And I asked Walter this the other day. Does that mean, okay, if they live over here, then are they going to take out Canadian citizenship? Well, no, they probably can't because we're all British. Well, we're not British subjects.
Well, not only that, why can they just decide to come live here? Like, I mean,
yeah, really.
Other people have to immigrate,
Yeah.
right? Why can they just? They must not be citizens then. They must have to. They must have like a working visa or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
They are obviously getting special permission to live here.
Yeah, well, it's good to be the king.
I guess
don't
it's
know.
good to be the queen, right?
I guess it's good to be the queen or related to her. So whatever. Anyways, so that's our talk on the monarchy today. So I hope you got an education if you're an American and didn't know much about the monarchy, and now you know everything we know. That's not much.
I mean, even the people that lived next door to me when I was just when I met you had semi, and the people lived next door to me immigrated from England to live in Canada, and they had to go through all kinds of testing to be able to get immigration papers to come to Canada.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just move from Britain to here to live.
Apparently you can if you're royal.
Yeah, obviously.
Because there's been no question of that whatsoever. And Kathy said, I believe Meghan had home in Canada and lived there before marrying Harry.
Yeah, but I know, but there's no guarantee that she had her citizenship here. She may have been just working on a visa.
Well, they filmed that show that she was on.
Suits.
The Suits in Vancouver.
Toronto.
Oh, was it Toronto? I thought it was Vancouver.
I thought it was Toronto. That's how they met. They were filming it in Toronto.
Oh, well, okay. So if she had a place here to live while they were doing that series and that shows, she had a visa, so she could work here. But she's an American.
Yeah, she is an American.
She's an American citizen.
Canadian.
No.
So, and people come up here to work all the time, or people here go to work in the U.S. all the time, but you have to have a working visa. You don't have necessarily your immigration papers.
No. Well, maybe because she's going to have a production company here or something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
that doesn't mean anything. People won't have foreign ownership of all kinds of properties.
Actually, the bottom line is simple.
You can't get you can't immigrate to Canada just because you own a house here.
But it doesn't matter with them. They're royal.
Yeah, I know.
The rules do not apply, apparently.
Well, I'm sure it doesn't apply to a lot of people that are that have lots of money too.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
sure they can buy their way in.
Yeah, true. Chris says Charles and his boys do heaps of charity work. Oh yeah, they do, and that's a good thing. I think why not? But I just don't know. I wonder what Harry's going to. I mean, Meghan she's got her acting career. She's a production company. So I wonder what Harry's going to do when he's over here.
I don't know. What does Harry do now?
Yeah, well, besides charity work.
He might just do charity
Maybe
work.
do more charity work here. Andy says, knew an American girl who married a Canadian. It took years for her to get a work visa. Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I don't know how any of that
depends
works.
too. Like work visas are. It depends on. You can't supposedly like if you go to the U.S. to work, you can't. You have to prove that you're not taking. I know from other people that have gotten a work visa, you have to prove that you're not taking a job away from an American. And I think it's the same in Canada. You have to prove that you're offering something special, that that Canadian jobs can't fill.
Okay, but then how do these people that come over here from India and places like that are doctors and they can't get a job and they end up driving a taxi?
Because they
But
don't
they're
have
here.
their medical licenses invalid here.
Okay.
So they have to reapply and re-go through courses to get their medical license.
Okay, I don't know. It's just too confusing. But whatever. Okay. So I think that's enough talk about the monarchy with it all. So let's move on here to what's coming up next week. We're going to the doctor tomorrow for our 3-month check, whatever. Well, we'll see how that is. I hate going to the doctor. She always wants to find something that I don't have wrong with me. Bonnie says works both ways, as it can take you years to get a working visa in the U.S. and Canada. And Chris says in Australia you can't work unless you have a work visa if you are a foreign national.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how it works here. Look at that. There's a heavenly glow over your head.
Yeah, you have to have a work visa to get.
Look at it.
Because
You have an
remember
aura.
Michael? He got a work
Yeah.
visa for the U.S. and went to the U.S.
Yeah.
for a while.
You have an aura.
Yeah,
Oh, my God. I don't know
heavenly.
why. Really? Maybe God is Dutch. I don't know. Heaven help us in that one. And guess what? Tomorrow is Walter's birthday. He's 70.
No,
Oh, that's right. You just look 70. How old will you be, Walter?
I'll be the same age you are.
That's right. 29. And holding. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
62.
62. Oh my God. Cut off his leg and count the rings to see if he's lying.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kathy.
How come you're seeing everybody's stuff before I do?
Happy birthday, Walter.
Yeah, so I think we're going out some point next week for dinner. He hasn't told me what night he wants to go yet. He doesn't want to go tomorrow night.
Well, I don't know. We can go tomorrow.
Well, I don't care. We don't have to go tomorrow night.
Okay, whatever.
We can go. You're talking Wednesday night before.
Yeah, I was
don't
thinking
know.
about that.
Middle of the week, hump night. Yeah, whatever. So anyways, and next week we will be on 1 hour later because it's the first Sunday in the month and I'm doing my art journaling class, so I won't get home till 4-ish. So we'll be on at 5. And we need topics, people.
Thanks, everybody.
We're running out of things to talk about. So if you guys have ideas, put them in the comments below or send them to me as email or whatever, because I don't know what more we can bore you with. Really. What can we talk about? We're running out of things here. Oh, Chris was singing to you. Happy birthday. Yippee. Love the later sessions. Yeah, because for you, yeah, time-wise, I guess. No. Oh, yeah. Always get screwed up between Australian time and our time with the difference between it all. But anyways, okay, I think that's it. I think it's time to say goodbye. We've had our time. So everybody have a good week. Check out my vlog tomorrow if you get a chance once it goes up. And as I said, you got any ideas for topics, let us know. See you all later. Bye-bye.